6 o'clock and call this July 8th meeting of the CRA to order. And we'll start with a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Kenny, could you do roll call? Present?
Here.
Member James.
Here.
Member Jameson.
Here.
Williams.
Yeah.
Okay, next item would be the approval of the agenda. One thing will need to be done, we'll need to remove the approval of minutes and put that on the next CRA agenda. They weren't included in our packets, so we didn't have a chance to review them, and there were actually 2 meetings. And other than that, does anybody have any changes?
I would make a motion that the agenda with the noted change be made and be approved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, the first item of business is discussion on consider an act on purchase of the Priest Theater. And David Sutton and our city manager, Ashley Stefanos, are here. Director of the CRA. What do you want to tell us?
I have a presentation I was going to go through with some numbers.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me better for that? So I just want to go over the presentation because it makes it easier because there's a lot of information here. So just kind of some history of the Priest Theater project. The Priest Theater is one of the oldest buildings in High Springs and continuing running theaters in Florida. It was shut down during COVID and has been on the market. At the last CRA board meeting, the CRA board gave staff to go ahead to look into the cost to purchase the building, make improvements to it, operate and maintain it, just to kind of explore if this is a project that is something we want to do or not. The reasons given for us to pursue this venue was to preserve a historically significant structure, revitalize the CRA district in downtown High Springs to keep it vibrant, and it would the benefits would rehabilitating that business and opening it back up as a community facility would increase property values and promote economic development by bringing more people to the CRA district. So just some information on the building. It's a 4,100 square foot building. It sits on 0.28 acres or 12,000 square feet. It has a large auditorium for seating for 240 people. However, with the condition assessment to make it ADA accessible, we would decrease, if you went forward with the purchase of the building, we decrease the number of seats by 20 to make the aisles wider. So that'd be 220 people. It has a stage, a backstage area, a storage area, a movie screen and projection room, mezzanine, concession stand, lobby, restrooms. The appraised value was $111,658. We had an appraisal done with outlining the market value, and the market value that they came up with was $325,000. So there were several improvements. We had a condition assessment done by Paul Stressy, who does some architectural work for us. And I just want to get to this page, and there's so much. I didn't put it down. 1 second. I could go over what those were. There we go. Sorry about this. There we go. So there were several items for that needed to be improved. They were grouped in 4 levels. Level 1 are the code compliance improvements that equal $9,500. At the high, there was a kind of a lowest to highest point. So we put the highest point to cover our costs should you decide to go this direction. This involved emergency exit enhancement, life safety, illuminated exit signage, and detector replacement, miscellaneous wood floor repair. So that wouldn't be, switching out the whole floor, just kind of the things that might be sticking up and dangerous. And the exit alcove reconfiguration, so people know where to exit and the doors are wide enough, the space wide enough for people to get through. Level 2 are what in the report was called good conscience improvements. So if that's a pretty big statement. If someone's giving me something that says good conscience improvements, I'm like, oh, yeah, that means we probably should do it. So the level 2 that came out or include fire and voice evacuation system, thinning out of seats and grinding bolts, stage ceiling and mezzanine wood replacement, scaffold work, mezzanine door at the base of the stairs, mezzanine egress window door and escape stairs, HVAC replacement, minor electric upgrades, exterior handicap accessibility ramp, handicap lift, landing, wall cut-in and electric, and a freestanding bathroom. So the amount of those improvements excluding the bathroom was $271,000. Include the bathroom building would be $400,000 for a total of $671,750 for level 2 good conscience improvements. Level 3 is advanced improvements and enhancement and equal $94,200. Included front of stage north exit alcove removal or reconfiguration, installation of a gutter and downspout system, and handicap push button door access. Level 4 included future improvements and enhancements equal to $165,000. And that the recommendation was the front marquee replacement, dumpster screen wall, and gate. Oh, back up, I also, level 3 also included re-roofing of building, miscellaneous interior steel ceiling beam maintenance, and miscellaneous painting. So as you can see, so the number of level 1 and level 2, which includes the code compliance and the good conscience improvements, added to $996,750. If with the cost of the market value of the building and the cost of all improvements, if you added up that plus the $325,000 the market value of the building is $1.2 million. And that doesn't include like if you wanted to replace the seats or the flooring or landscaping, it doesn't include some of that additional extra stuff too. As far as the operations and maintenance, staff did a report looking at the staffing, cost of utilities, we pulled the cost of utilities that had the previous costs, the cost of technology based on kind of what we pay here, cleaning, maintaining the lawn, and other routine maintenance. Obviously, there'd have to be a fund for kind of emergency things that occurred, just like it does with city facilities. And what we came up with was it was kind of a wash. It looked like some years we might make a little money, but some years we could lose a little money. They're kind of were equal. After that's how that came out. So there's no guarantee that the revenues, we think we could bring in like $200,000 to $300,000 a year if we did it. But it probably costs, or it could be less depending whether movies come back or not and what you use it for. So that was kind of hard to do, but overall just keeping the building open, regardless of what you do, staffing, technology, just the basics to keep a building running like this, because you'd have to have someone there to man the concession stand, if it was open, to, clean, to open the doors, all that stuff. Just with your staffing alone, you can easily look at 100,000. So we thought that it would either be a wash, maybe minor, some years minor profit, and some years it could be a minor loss. So I'm not going to go into this saying that you would not have to have subsidy from the CRA. So say we paid for the building and the improvements, there is likelihood that on some years, there could be a substitute from the CRA fund or the general fund if CRA doesn't have enough. But some year there might be some money put in a fund for some improvements, but that's just a hard one. I can't really draw something out and say for definitely this is how it can be, especially when movies haven't even come back. So our idea was if you wanted to move forward on this, that you would, the city would purchase it and make some of the improvements, probably not all. The money just isn't there for all the improvements, not even close. And that we would put it under contract and send out a request for proposals for someone else to run it and pay the operation and maintenance costs. So if something goes down, that they pay for it, and that we enter into a long-term contract with them, and they pay for the utilities and they pay for the staffing. Someone else operates it for a use that the city of High Springs would be in CRA district, would CRA board would be in favor of. And that we would put it under contract, send it that RFP out, see what we get back in, and make a decision from there if we actually follow through with the purchase. We can't really send out an RFP unless we get it under contract. It's hard to send out an RFP for something that we don't own. I did want to put in perspective the CRA budget. We do not have a huge budget. So the CRA budget, the revenues, estimated revenues based on last year, and I took out the fund balance from the revenue, just so you know, because that's not our true revenues, that's fund balance. So there's $235,667 is the revenues. Keep in mind that the salaries for this budget year are $86,556. And the operating costs for $48,375, leaving $161,788 for projects, such as the facade improvement program. If you want to do some marketing, say you want to do the lighting projects, say you want to do the decorations and the banners, those type of things come from the remaining, or say you want to do some parking improvements, you want to finance that, like that all comes from that small pot of money. But to let you know, I did think it was important for you to know that we do have a fund balance according to our audit last year, and I talked to the auditors to confirm the fund balance. That our fund balance at the end of last fiscal year, September 30th, in the fund is $296,719. So there is a fund balance with a little bit of money to work with, but keep in mind you would want to reserve some of that as a precaution. Should anything happen in the CRA district that you wanted to have money to participate in, or, say there were more sinkholes in the CRA district or something, like you never know, just so you have it there. So the two options are to continue to pursue the purchase of the Priest Theater, make an offer and put it under contract. And during that, staff would recommend during that period, we send out RFPs to see what we get back, so that we're not in a position, a precarious position and we're not in a position to operate and maintain it ourselves, because we just don't really have the staffing to do it. And it is a risk. So that we would suggest putting out the RFP and putting it under contract. And if we get a good user, then y'all determine if the user is good enough, if you like the option enough to move forward and actually purchase it, or move on to other projects. And just say we're done, and let the owners of the Priest Theater move forward and try to get someone else in there.
Okay. Commissioner?
Mr. Chair, I looked at all of the other projects that we have on the list here, in addition to this, to the Priest Theater. I realize there's a lot of emotional input that we've received. I haven't received it, others have. But I just think over $1 million to save it is just way beyond what we can afford to do. We've got all these others to take care of. Over $1 million is just really, in my opinion, too much.
Okay, my turn. Okay, I'm on the same page that she is. I think when we started this, I don't think we were anywhere near $1 million to do what we wanted with this, and we were pretty much in agreement. But having gone through all this and looking at this and seeing the other things that we need to do, I don't see where we're going to come up with $1 million to do this one project. I think that would cause us to have to not do some of the other things that are equally, if not more important than this particular one. I think it's just too costly.
Have y'all pursued any grants? There's possible grants out there for a project as this?
There are grant opportunities through the state's National Historic Preservation Trust. I've contacted them slightly, missed the grant cycle this year. We would qualify for it next year. I don't know what those amounts are to get, nothing was guaranteed. But speaking, in fact, one of the ladies that's on it came to the Kimberly Horn meetings. We had a few meetings. And she felt that the priest would score very highly based on it, but again, nothing's guaranteed. But there are large six-figure grants out there available.
Are those grants only available to a municipality, or are they available to private enterprise or nonprofits?
I would think nonprofit. I did inquire about private, I was just asking from our perspective.
Yeah, she basically said will have to be a nonprofit as the city for to get some historic grants. So that innovation you're talking about, if that's part of the back to stage and all that, that you can do other things that just show movies or whatever. For like you can do plays, shows.
The stage area behind the screen would need some renovation work to do live performances. Right now, we've all been in the priest. It's somewhat of a turnkey operation for movie theaters. There would have to be some, since I believe it would be a municipally owned building, that there might be some more stringent ADA type requirements versus a privately held building that's still in use. But they can start showing movies right now, with the equipment and everything, so you can start generating revenue. I have spoken with a gentleman on one of the companies that was listed up there, and he is very interested. He was supposed to come up Tuesday to meet with us and tour the priest, but due to the storm, we rescheduled for the 20th. This gentleman has 4 or 5 theaters, a couple smaller than the priest, some larger, that he manages in South Florida. Brings quite a few live shows in. He said it'd be very easy for them to stop here right off I-75 on the way south or on the way back north for shows. And I didn't get into too great a detail with as far as a business arrangement goes, because I felt that was up to Ashley to handle those type of negotiations and arrangement. I was just there to gain his interest, which what was significant. And he was willing to come up and spend the day looking at the priest, and he feels it is a tremendous opportunity. The costs are what they are. We can't get around those anyway. It doesn't have to be done at one time. It can be done in phases. The initial thing would be the purchase and getting that completed. Then and like Ashley said, going under contract, and then we could potentially send out an RFP and see if that gains any more attention. Trying to locate theater management companies, it's not like finding a Krispy Kreme or McDonald's. They are very few and far between, but I found some and they are very interested. I think with the way movies are now streaming straight to home, that the live theater is really what's coming back now versus it being used as a movie theater.
That's one
And,
point.
you know, this building being that it is a dual purpose facility for movies and live performances, it makes it an attractive option to people.
So have y'all did any type of study before the COVID hit? For us with theaters, what kind of profits or loss they was making before COVID came? Not the COVID came, everything shut down. But before COVID, was movie theaters,
I can't speak to like Gainesville or the AMC, the larger chains. I do know that the Priest Theater was generating a profit the way it was running on Friday, Saturday, Monday nights in the pre-COVID.
But I do want to interject there that we would have greater costs because they didn't have as many employees as we would have to have because some of the family members were helping to run it. And so they didn't have the salary. We would have to pay people that some people were getting paid and some people weren't. So once you add that into the plan, it makes it where I said it would be a wash and you can't tell how it would come out.
question for you just that fast. Finish down. Oh, okay. So if we was going to contract with someone, how would we make a profit if they, what's right? Say we was to hire John Kelly to run it, John Kelly company to run it. We're going to contract with him. So how would the city profit?
So what you would do is you send out an RFP saying what vision you have for the theater, but we have already have a draft one. Basically in the RFP, the way it was written was that they come and tell us how they would want to use the theater. So, the way we looked at it, it would be a multi-use facility, that there be some movies, there might be plays, there might be dances, I don't know, ballet or people singing, bands, maybe even art shows there, any number of things. So we left it open for people to come and pitch their ideas, and they are supposed to tell us kind of what, basically we would want them in it to operate, maintain it. And then normally we would get something like a 10 or 20% profit if they made any. If it's a nonprofit, we might not get a profit. And if they made a profit, then we would put it in a fund for capital improvements for the facility, like HVAC, landscaping, any number of things. So if they had a year where they didn't make a profit, then we wouldn't get a percentage. So that's normally how it's done. Again, David, for a number of months, you've been looking for people, and I think he came up with 3. So we would just have to hope that all 3 and maybe others submitted, but we can't guarantee, but we can send it out and see what comes back. And if something comes back that's in our favor, we could maybe pursue that avenue. I would see it though as us purchasing the building and making the major capital improvements. I don't see how someone could come in and do anything but minor improvements. It's just too costly. It wouldn't pan out. And I did have some people who are business people look at it, and had some other people, talk about partnerships and all that sort of thing. And they came back to me and they said the same thing as I relayed to you. It's very tight on whether it would make money or not. So I just would want full disclosure, because I don't want to put something out to you and talk all roses, and then the next year something comes in and I'm standing here going, oh, I'm sorry, I told you it was going to be, everything was going to work out wonderfully, and it didn't. I'd rather the truth of what could happen. And then I'd rather come back if everything was positive and roses, say, oh, our expectations were exceeded. But, I just would want you to know you're getting into, there's no guarantee.
So I'm putting my businessman hat on now. So if I was investing into a building, as the city is investing, talking about $1 million, some kind of way, I want to make sure that I'm going to make my money back. So ain't no way possible for just throwing things out. If we purchase it, then whoever that company may be, we're gonna contract, we lease it to them. That's up to them if they make money, but we're gonna get our money every month for us with a lease contract, a lease agreement.
A straight up lease is an option if a company chooses to enter into that type of arrangement. Just like anybody else, whether they're leasing a building downtown, then like you said, it's up to them to put out the best product possible to attract as many people to generate as much revenue as possible. And so that is an option right there as far as instead of going with the possible percentage, which could be 0, could be 20, you're guaranteed a standard X amount of dollars monthly.
I'm looking at a risk. If you're spending that kind, you're spending about $1 million. Some kind of way I want to see that we can, I ain't gonna say make a $1 million profit, but we will get some type of return. It might not be in 2 years, might not be 3 years, 5 years, but some type of way we can get some type of return on. And that's business. That's people in business to make money.
You know, and
But we're not. That's what I'm trying, I'm trying to understand here,
Well, I'm not saying, I'm not saying, I'm speaking as a business person, but we don't want to go into a contract as a city. Yeah, we're city. But we still, if we're going to invest in something, we still got to get some money back. We just don't want to put $1 million out there. When I say business, I mean business mind. And I'm not saying we are business. I know we're a city, we're a government, a nonprofit organization. But it's business because you got to, if you're going to invest, some kind of way you want to make sure we get those $1 million some dollars back over a period of time.
Yeah, and talking to people who run businesses, because we had them look at some of the people that run them. We had them look at it, and the issue where we were having trouble saying, oh, it's gonna make this big profit is once you take out those 20 seats, especially there's 220 seats left. So the amount that it costs, yeah, you would get some people who would come and maybe do something very little because it's a community thing and not charge us as much as maybe they would some big venue. But, it costs a lot of money to get some good acts. And so when you have people sitting in those seats, those 220 seats, that has to cover the cost of those people. Plus, keeping the electricity going and the, water and the employees and everything. And it just, again, it was just very tight. It would be a lot easier if the facility had more seats, but it just doesn't. And that's what we were running into. Not saying there's not people out there who make it work, but it is a risk. It's a great facility. It's a wonderful community facility with historic purposes. And it would be wonderful to have it open in a community facility that could make the downtown more vibrant. Our finances are what they are. You see the budget. It's just a little over $200,000 and $80,000 of that goes to staffing and 40 to 50 goes to operational. That's not a lot of money to work with. So I just want y'all to be understanding of that.
Yeah, and so that's what I'm calling. I'm not calling City High Spring business. I'm thinking like a business person right now. That's what I'm thinking as when you talk about spending money. And if you're gonna spend that type of money, I need to see as a business person as a return. It wouldn't make sense to put some money out there, especially $1 million. Because we can do a whole lot more things with $1 million.
Yeah, that's right.
So don't get me wrong. I would love to have the theater because the historical point. That's why I wish we had to kind of move a little early on this so we could try to see what some grants possible out there for this theater. Because I know if somebody else come in and purchase it, it may lose this historical site. I don't know. It's just too many unknown questions for me right now. Too many.
It's a historical building, right?
Yeah.
And so the renovations they could do would be limited by state law as to what they can do.
Right.
So you couldn't come in and make wholesale changes.
That's right.
There's certain things in there. I know when we had houses that you would have to adhere to. So I think in that regard, there would be some guidelines. They couldn't come in and basically change it. Let me just see a couple of grants. I understand the grants, but my concern with the grant is a one-time thing, and this is an ongoing process, which you're going to have to do it. I'll be honest with you, the first thing that hit me when we started talking about this was the operation cost. And how much you're going to have to bring in. I'll say this, whether it's right or not, I don't know if movie theaters are coming back the way they were when I was a kid or when my kids were kids. I think those days are gone. I reluctantly say that, but I think they are, because you can stream movies now. And I can stream it for $8.50 instead of bringing my wife and my 3 kids and costing. So I mean, it's from that standpoint. So I'm not sure, didn't one of the major just movie theaters close down, the huge complex?
Well, movies nowadays have sound also, Scott.
They do? Well, I thought they just had their words written.
And the music band.
Let me ask you this, how long has it been dormant?
March of last year.
So over a year it's been dormant.
Yeah, they shut down March with the pandemic.
Okay.
Year and a half.
That concerns me greatly. Mold, everything else that would be in there. We didn't show the pictures, and I appreciate we didn't. But if you go through and if you look through these pictures, and I understand we talked about that from your deal with the machinery and so forth there, you could start movies. That place wouldn't be operational for 6 months
Or more.
by the time we did. There are substantial, and I see what you're saying, David. I'm not contradicting what you said, is being able to show the movies. But in order to have this into a safe environment where you are going to have people walk in that door and go around the building, it would take
That's a lot of work.
substantial type of construction to be done before I would, and this is me, I would be comfortable with somebody walking in that door to view a presentation. The degree of decay and so forth of this building is immense. I would be surprised if you got the $1 million, because the cost, when this guy did this and the cost now, the cost of things have skyrocketed. So I would venture to say that the replacement costs and construction costs would be substantially more even than what's in here. That's my concern. Did you want to say something?
I was gonna say, and that didn't include a sprinkler system, so although it's not required, you would have 220 people in there in a tight space.
Yeah.
So that's something, to
Have
me,
'em
that should be a good conscience.
Yeah, have 'em
that
sign-
wasn't in there.
No, and I get it, and I understand this. My thought is there again, and not to belabor the point, I think the operation costs, when you get into it, I think it would drain the money. You would dry up other product that you would want to do. Without being able to go into an agreement with somebody prior to agreeing to purchase it, which we can't do. We got to purchase it because then we can do it. That makes no sense to me from a business standpoint, that we would obligate ourselves to this with having no guaranteed return for somebody actually operating it. We can't operate it. You could, David, if you were there, I would have done this one here, but governments, in my opinion, do not, because they're not money-based. They don't run like a private business. They don't watch the deals. I mean, it's sort of on the thing. It's different. So I hope somebody can come in. The extent of repairs and the operations and so forth, I just don't see a city of our size being able to do it. So I would not be for the purchase of it unless some things dramatically changed. I just don't see where we can do it and do it correctly.
I'm not gonna have a different conclusion in my comments than the other commissioners. I mean, my concern, and I talked to city staff today, it's the building is not only in the historic district, it's apparently on the National Historic Register, which is a pretty significant, constraint in what they're going to be able to
Right.
do with, the overall building. So from the sentimental value, there's some protection there by that action having been taken, and it allows for some grants and some other potential relief that
Mhm.
the city might be able to support. But the carrying cost, until we even could get it to the point where we could do some of the things that have been described, that it would take to have multiple revenue streams, would be pretty substantial. And we'd have to have real consensus on what this multi-purpose is. And I know from, having spent years working in the theaters, live theater mostly, when you start saying multi-purpose, there's a huge cha-ching that goes with that, as far as what it takes. And we haven't even talked about lighting systems and upgraded electrical or any of that kind of thing for what it takes for live performances, or an art gallery or that type of thing, because it's very different lighting than an auditorium. So, I wouldn't be looking at some kind of agreement where we get a percentage back if they make money, because I am a business person. There's all kinds of ways to make it look like you didn't make any money. So there's nothing to share. So I would want a method where we know we're getting our money back. But what it boils down to me is I don't see the public purpose that committing $1.3 million at a minimum would warrant. I don't see how we benefit the other businesses in the downtown area with a substantial return by making sure the building, stays what we remember. And we might be surprised at what the private sector does with that building, because one of the reasons our downtown is doing pretty well is it doesn't look like a brand new downtown or a strip mall. And so there's a lot of opportunity there for the right private entity to come in and do something with that without monopolizing a lot of resource, not only in treasure, but in staff from the city. So as much as it pains me knowing what we know, and with all this information that was put together since we went out to look at it, I'm not in favor of us moving forward with an acquisition.
When Damon and I came to the board and the commission last year, we just want to make sure that the city had an opportunity, and we were given the due diligence time to make sure we weren't missing potential opportunity, and for y'all to allow staff to do this research, to come back to you where we are today. And if this project doesn't work, I'm fine. I just want to make sure that Ash and I were able to give you all the information so that y'all could make a decision based on that, and not a sentimental or anything, but looking at all aspects of it. And if the priest doesn't work for the city, for the CRA, then we're fine. But I just want to make sure that Damon and I, when we came to y'all last year, we had to make sure that we did have an opportunity in time to do what we did.
Yeah, no, and I think staff has done a really good job of coming back to us with enough information that we can really zero in and feel comfortable with a difficult community decision.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree. I appreciate what y'all put together here. You put together, when expecting this much, I was, in my mind, maybe 450,000, and we can take it and run with it. That was my thinking. Living
As
in a
I
different
said,
time.
that's what I was saying when we started. I don't think we were looking at $1 million when we.
Yeah.
The only direction I think we had going into this was Scott said, we're not in the movie management business, and make sure this deal includes somebody else that is running it. That's what we want to make sure of.
Mhm.
Well, let me just say, and I appreciate it, because this is more info that I thought that we would have. And it does make, as Ross said, as far as making the decision. Once again, I'm a firm believer governments, they don't do well running businesses. I mean, I've said that many times. I'll be honest with you, and again, I've said it already. The extent, I think, of things that would have to be fixed and operationally, I think for us, because we're tied to so many requirements that it would tie us up private business can do other things much quicker. You know, we got to go out to a bid process. Private business is going to do it tomorrow. I'm just saying, so from a timing standpoint, it constricts what we can do in a expeditious type of manner. So I don't like it. I've been there, I've seen the movies, but I can't be for it in this regard because I think it would handicap the city too much going forward. So I would be against it.
You know,
So-
from historical point, I hate this. So I miss for Ashley and maybe Damon can help me. So there's no, I won't say, there's not no groups out there like go out and save old buildings like this. And I mean,
Okay, so there are, and David, one of the reasons this has taken months was because David did the research on that. So I'm not gonna say after we have this public meeting, there's not gonna be all these people who come out and say, save the building, okay? And that there's not gonna be these groups. I will say that we searched for them,
mhm.
okay? And there's a lot of interest, a lot of people who say and think they can do it, and I'm sure that they have done it before, some of them not. It's, again, I'm gonna tell you, it's a risk, because it's not like this is, and there's a lot of people who have big ideas, and then when it comes to getting it done, that's a whole nother thing. And so I'm never gonna say that that person's not, there's not gonna be that person that right after the meeting,
Yeah.
they throw down $1 million and say, have at it, because anything's possible. But
They can
David
have at
spent a lot of time and looking for those people and doing outreach. And then there are people that we thought might want to get involved that after they looked at it, they stepped back.
Well, I think basically what Lynn and people have said, I think the other thing that is of a concern, which everybody has voiced, I think,
Mhm.
is to me, there's a big unknown.
Yeah.
And so we're asking to invest this type of money with really no guarantee. You know, if I got a restaurant, I'm absolutely convinced and my food's gonna say, you know what you have. We don't know what we have.
Right.
You don't know if movies are coming back. You don't know what we're gonna do for other multipurpose. To me, from a city standpoint, the unknown to me sits there and says, invest $1 million, but you got the question mark over here as to what that $1 million is going to do. And I'd love to be able to write the check. And I'm not joking, I'd love to. But from a city standpoint, it's not fair to me, to the citizens and so forth, that we take all the money and we put it into one thing. So
Well, I
I'm
also
done.
think there's some liability involved because we're held to different standards and we're the city. And so you can't discount that. The other thing is that because we're the city, people are going to really care more, say it is a movie theater part of the time. They're gonna care what we show. And a lot of times cities do not show R-rated movies, which is a lot of what comes out that are
Yeah.
the money makers. Well,
That's right.
in other cities, I did work on 2 movie theater projects. They were big movie theater projects, like commercial, not a historic building. But that technology is expensive and it changes frequently. So, we might have great technology now, but that doesn't mean that that's gonna be the case. And so down the road, that's another unknown as far as what expense that's going to be. So I think, and I'm gonna say it, I am a vision person. I have an economic development background. I see the vision. I see what it could be, but I also see the price tag with it. And when you compare it against other priorities, that's your choice. But for our budget and the amount of things that need to get done downtown, there's some tough decisions to be made. So.
So it's still on the market?
Is it publicly listed like on an MLS? No. Is it for sale? Yes, I believe you could use those words. But is there a realty sign up front of it? No, you're not gonna be able to go to Zillow and find a listing for it. It does seem like staff and the board are all in consensus on a direction to go with this. I would like to be able to, and you'll see as we get to the agenda, to assist the priests in other ways that staff, Ashton and I have been discussing, and we like to you know, look at that, so, you know, whatever direction the chair and the board like take this time, we can go with.
Do we need a motion or just consensus on this?
Discuss and enact.
Hmm?
Consensus.
Okay, all right. So there seems to be consensus that we not move forward with the purchase and acquisition of the priest and at this time.
Agree.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And Dave, if y'all can't, I don't know. It's a part of me. Priest said it's a part of me. It's a part of me. So my first movie we're doing that was Car Wash, 1976. Yes, ma'am, Becca, 1976. Car wash. Yeah, don't watch it. Watch it. Yeah. What I'm trying to say here, if we can look at it from a historical site, from now, please understand, Dana, if we can kind of look at it from a historical site and put it out there that way, and trying to, I don't know, I believe it's a way to save it. That's what I'm trying to. So I want to be a way to save it.
I think the city can be a partner with anyone that comes with a viable idea
Yes.
for it, but that there's not going to be a commitment of substantial treasure
No,
to
no.
be able to do that.
But the partner with this, something, I don't know, in historical.
Well,
Yeah.
and I think the next item on the agenda, the ad valorem tax would tie into that potentially. Because as it reads, the priest would qualify potentially if it were in place. Okay. Are we ready to move on? Second, okay. Provide direction on the ad valorem tax exemption for historic properties. Ashley.
Okay, so, in talking about the Priest Theater, you know, we want it to be able to do something. And so, we were looking around and, you know, obviously if this isn't the same as purchasing it and doing it ourselves, but it's something. So there are, state statute allows for ad valorem tax exemption for historic properties. I included that portion of the statute in your packet. It allows for up to 50% of historic commercial and nonprofit buildings that are open 1,800 hours per year to qualify for a 50% exemption on ad valorem tax for a specified number of years. So in order to do that, what the city would have to do is the CRA board, since in the CRA district, would recommend to the city commission that you want staff to write an ordinance outlining criteria of what that entail. It could entail that the businesses employ a certain number of employees, or that there are if there's certain value associated with the businesses that you want to assist, or that they reach certain as far as being historical. You kind of dig into how old they are or what historical significance they have, you know, different things. And then what the way it works is if you pass the ordinance, they could apply for exemptions. I would recommend that you would only in the ordinance, if you're an existing business, that you don't, if you would have to be like if you're coming and you're renovating or making improvements, or it's a new project or an expansion, kind of just like when you do ad valorem tax abatements, is typically on something like that, not something that you can't have just everyone come and qualify for it. It would be when you're doing something to the structure. And that's typically when, and if they start doing work prior to asking for an exemption or anything, then they won't qualify because they've already started work, they're already doing it. Because the purpose of it is to encourage people to do stuff that they haven't done. So it's an existing business that's then coming forward. So you're an existing business owner and you're wanting to make improvements that are, you know, reach a certain point, then they would qualify. But if you're an existing business that doesn't do anything new to your building, they wouldn't qualify. That's how it typically works. So, so anyway, that we would write an ordinance and bring that to you. For instance, if the Priest Theater continued operating as is and no improvements were made, say they opened back up as a movie theater just as they were before with no improvements, they wouldn't qualify. But if they opened up and they made some of these improvements that were kind of listed on the sheet, or to make it more safe, or to make the facade prettier or something like that, then they would qualify. And so then an agreement would come and it would be on a case-by-case basis. You would get to decide on every case if you wanted to grant it or not, based on if it was a project you wanted to support. And usually it would be a 50% exemption ad valorem tax up to 10 years. So if you're interested in doing that, then staff could write an ordinance with criteria and bring it to you for consideration.
Mr. Chair, do you have a guesstimate as to what kind of money we're talking about, what the figure would be?
Well, it just depends on the project. I mean, I didn't actually sit there and do it right now, but so like the 300,000 building. It's not a ton. I mean, gosh, it would just be like probably under $10,000 a building, and some of them under 5, and well, really a lot of them under 5 with how much they're valued downtown. But if you say it went from a 325 value and you did all this stuff to it to $1 million value, then that would increase. This 50/50 still have to pay 50% of the taxes.
Okay,
But you would actually be getting more taxes because they made the improvements, depending on how much.
Yes,
the
okay.
improvements were. So you wouldn't lose a ton. You're just being a partner. Sometimes they just want you to know they're a partner. So I wouldn't see this huge impact to the budget from it. In fact, if you, over time, doing these type of incentives, you end up having more redevelopment, and then over time, it actually is a positive impact on the budget when you get the redevelopment really going.
okay.
But I think the key thing in here, at least from my standpoint, is a homeowner can't do it.
Right.
And I think that's the key part that needs to make sure that it's, emphasized, is it's a historic commercial property, not for profit, and it's open to the public. So, I mean, I think that's the other issue that I don't have an issue with, because I don't think we should be
That's required by state statute.
funding homes. What's
Yeah,
that?
we're not allowed to fund homes.
Right.
Like,
So I mean, I
So-
don't think so. So I mean, that would be, so I think in that regard, being that's commercial buildings, it's not for profit buildings, and it's in a historic, and they want to upgrade it, they want to do it. To me, that would make perfect sense. Like you said, for the priest or something within those things. I think it's a good idea. At least to let you draw up the ordinance and let us look at what the
Mhm.
specifics
Yeah,
are within
that's
the
it.
ordinance. I think we would be negligent not to at least ask you to do that.
Okay, we'll work on it.
So how was that? I'm trying to use the business down here, for example, they just got jacked all up, putting a new foundation up on it, I
The
guess.
hardware.
No,
No, the house.
the house, two-story house down here. Is that considered commercial or residential?
It would only be considered commercial to open like a retail business or something where there
It's
would
gotta
be
be
stipulations that it has to be open to the public. So if like it's an office business and it's not really open to the public, it wouldn't qualify. If it was a business where people walked in and bought, clothing or cookies or whatever, it could qualify. If it operates as a residential house with just a homeowner in it, it would not qualify.
Because I'm not sure what it's to open it up for. I don't know if that's being
Yeah.
real. I'm just trying to figure out some kind of business, maybe that's redoing something. And that's the only thing. I don't know if it's, I don't know if it considers residential, I don't know if it considers commercial. Because I can't remember what it used to be. I wish Bruce was here. Jenny, you remember?
I'm sorry, it was commercial.
It was commercial. I thought it was commercial. I'm trying to think what was in there one time before. Was offices in there?
The house is being jacked up. It was a retail store, and at one time it was a bed and breakfast.
Yeah, I'm quite, it was commercial.
Mhm.
Yeah. So for example, is that, how would that, if it is commercial, would this benefit from it since they remodeling and they're doing all that?
If it was so, they would come and they'd have to fill out an application, and then y'all would get to decide on it. Even just because you make an ordinance, this does not mean that you grant it to everyone. If they meet the qualifications, that means they can apply. That does not mean that you give it to everyone, because if it's a project you don't want, then you don't approve it. So, but they would qualify to apply, if they were open 1,800 hours a year to the public. I think that's like 48 weeks maybe.
Yeah.
So, so then they would qualify.
But I mean, they have to, they can't start the work and apply afterwards. So like
Right.
that property for the work they're doing
They want.
wouldn't qualify because they've already gone
Oh,
forward.
there we
and
go.
started.
So it's got to be
Yeah.
new, a
Correct.
new project.
Yeah, typically,
okay.
the reason you don't like technically, if you want to make the ordinance where they can start the work, then qualify, they can. That's not a state statute thing. But best practice is that you don't allow them to, because that means they're already gonna do it. So then there's no incentive. They're already gonna do it. So why give them money? Why give away money when they're doing it? So typically, if someone's starting construction, you don't offer the incentive at that point. They need to do it before construction.
But it also has to be registered.
Not all of them. So it could be like in our historic district, we have
Uh-huh.
certain, there's like a whole list. I didn't make the list because it was so long. And we can put that list in the ordinance. But so say it just falls in our historic district, that could be on the list. Like if it falls in the historic district, there's a map for the historic district and a map for the CRA district.
Okay.
So if it falls in the historic district, it could qualify. If we made it that way in the ordinance, which would make the most sense.
Oh, so it's just not, just not for the CRA district, just for,
You can make it for, but we were thinking in the comp plan to make the historic district and the CRA district one map. We were also thinking of that because it's so closely aligned.
right.
It's just, we have all these maps floating all over the place that it just makes it administratively cumbersome. So,
Okay. So I'm just thinking right now. I'm just thinking out the box if I can.
I'm in
So,
agreement with them putting forth an ordinance so we can take a look at it.
and we just.
That
we-
can't hurt
We need
at
to
all.
put in place the things other cities have to encourage the revitalization of our downtown. Like it's already happening, but we kind of just give it an extra push.
so now would open up your phone into the historic edition?
What?
The peanut
New
mill
peanut
is in the
mill.
historic district. It is only a very small parcel of that is in the CRA.
But no, but that's why I asked that question. Is it the historical, is this for the historical district or for just for CRA?
So you can do it however you want, but it has to have a historical tie. You can't do it if there's no historic. So if it's in the CRA and there's no historical tie, so there would be a number of criteria. So it could be in the CRA and still have a historical tie, because there'll be a whole different list. So if you're in the, it's kind of weird. So if you're in the historical district, you would automatically qualify if you're a commercial business that met the criteria.
Mhm.
If then you're in the CRA, say someone put down a brand new building that had no historic anything to it, then they wouldn't qualify. Only the historic buildings in the historic district. So if you, so say they fell in the National Register or something,
Mhm.
okay, then that would be, and they were in the CRA district, then they could meet the qualification. But all the commercial businesses would in the historic district, and the CRA only some.
So this kind of giving a sense for people to open up businesses and remodel and whatever. Am I hearing it right?
Yeah,
And
and
preserve them.
versus tear them down.
Okay, and so that's why I asked a question about the old mill, but it's still a historical part.
Well, and that's why, I mean, I'd be in favor of it being a historic district, even though it's cumbersome to have the different lines. There are reasons the CRA wasn't laid out around the historic district. And for those same reasons, the CRA wasn't laid around the existing historic
Okay.
district boundaries. We probably don't want to do just the opposite and only write the ordinance to apply to buildings that are in the CRA.
Yeah, because that's just one.
Yeah, because that's
So-
just one part of
Yeah.
why we have a district, because there are homes all throughout that we have a historic district because of the collection of architecture, not because of the significance of any one building or one street.
Mhm.
So that's why the historic district is larger than the CRA.
So that's a good point. So it would, so I agree with Ross. So it would include the historic district, but it still also can include it would include the historic buildings in the CRA because it's so close to the
Mhm.
historic district, you wouldn't want to exclude them. So we'd have like a list where we kind of, if it meets, if it can meet a historically significant building in a number of ways, not just one way. So we'd outline a list of what all those ways are.
Right, so consensus to move forward with bringing back an ordinance
Yes,
for review?
I think it's crucial to do the historic because in essence, if you do the historic, this really isn't a CRA issue. This is really a commission issue.
Correct.
Right.
This, no,
But it's a commission issue, but CRA is impacted, so that's why it's kind of.
well, it's impacted, but the CRA has no say-so
Right.
because it's a historic.
Right,
And we're designated, I'm just saying, if you designate it as that, is it historic, parts of the CRA that are in it, they get impacted.
right,
But it's not written for the CRA, it's written for the city as a whole.
right.
Okay, let's roll.
Okay.
Linda, you good?
Okay, then if you have what you need on that, we'll move on to the third item. Direction on the business improvement program to include facade improvements, tenant improvements, and structural rehabilitation grants.
So staff is proposing to kind of do the facade improvement program a little differently than it's been done in the past, and we wanted your direction before we start writing things. So the facade improvement right now is a 50-50% match, and it's just on improvements to the exterior only. We wanted to change it more to a business improvement program and expand it to include tenant improvements. The reason why is because there are many buildings that are repositioning themselves right now to higher, and better use. Some maybe to lower use, but I think for the most part to higher and better use. For instance, we have a boarded up vacant building right next to the Priest Theater, that might become a pizza place. And, we might have other ones like that, especially people that are more mom and pop, which are those unique businesses that aren't the kind of chains, which is what you want downtown. So that allows us to assist those businesses as well, the ones that want to, like the buildings downtown aren't set up for one purpose. They can be an apartment, for 10 years, and the next year they can be offices, and next year something else that enables us to assist people who want to repurpose buildings that are just kind of not making their highest and best use. And the other was structural rehabilitation. I'll give you an example, for instance, the Ace Hardware. And that's a prime example. We don't want unsafe
True Value.
buildings in our downtown or
True Value
yeah,
hardware.
True
business
Value,
hardware.
sorry,
Mhm.
True Value hardware. And so we don't want unsafe structures in our downtown, and it's a health and safety issue as well. And we also don't want blight downtown. This does not mean that we would necessarily increase the amount of funding in the budget for the programs. What we would do, we might, but we might not, depending on what funds are available from year to year. But the way we would do it is issue a call for projects once or twice a year. If the money was taken the first time, there wouldn't be a second. If not, we do it a second time, and that way projects can be evaluated all at once, comparing the projects against each other. That doesn't mean if you don't have like a really big one, there's leftover money that you couldn't help out, but you would try to really kind of have certain dates that you have a call for projects. So, and then you would rank them against each other. So it was just kind of to expand it to meet the needs of the downtown, what's really going on there.
Go ahead, Madam Chair.
Okay. So the True Value does come to mind immediately. And I'm assuming that that's a great cost to rehabilitate that part of the building.
You could just make it to like a maximum amount, like grant, like 10,000 per person, or like whatever the magic number is. You don't have to, that doesn't mean you're gonna offer to pay half their project.
No,
Yeah.
no, no, but, okay. But I think now we have 5,000 max, don't we?
Yes,
On
ma'am.
the current facade,
Yeah.
yeah.
But yes, I would be in favor of it, except for I don't want us to get in the business too of rehabilitating buildings that are going to be monstrously expensive.
Oh, I agree. There would be a cap on it and, yeah, I mean, there would be, we don't have that kind of money. So
Mhm.
it would just be like, we would get the projects in, we evaluate it. If there's a project that doesn't, say we get 5 of them in and we don't like any of them, you don't have to do it, any of them.
Well, yeah, and
Yeah.
the thing of it is you'd have to be fair.
Yeah.
You'd have to have some guidelines to go by so that if we do for one, we do for another type thing. So,
We had in another city, we had a ranking system and you had to meet a certain number. If you didn't meet that number, you weren't even considered. It didn't even go to hearing. So.
Anything else?
I like the twice a year. I think there at one point in time, we tried to do that. It seemed like it was there that people came in and we would do it twice a year as opposed to haphazardly just have them bring it forth. So I like that within the process is having specific dates that when it would be available. That can be written in. So that I like. I think that's more equitable.
Anyone else? Okay, I definitely would think, I'd like to see you come back with a formal program where we've got the recommendations. We probably do need to look at the $5,000 or whatever. And I think the timing to include some more capital things is really good. Historically, there's been a tendency to do things that were more cosmetic and didn't actually protect the buildings. So in some cases, maybe supporting someone and spending $10,000 on some tuck pointing might save a whole lot of money 5 years down the line for different things. So that would be a good investment and to encourage those. And there might need to be some, thought put into, is it per property or per business? Because some properties have multiple businesses per thing. So, you might be in a situation, well, this is going to impact 4 businesses. So it's really 4 separate applications because each one, and then we don't get to be fair, so I guess, I don't know how we're fair because,
It could be per applicant or per property owner. I don't know.
yeah,
We'll
but look
into
into
all
that
stuff.
and I look forward to seeing something you bring back. And I think that's the consensus, correct?
Yeah.
That's good. Okay. Next similar item, provide direction on the CRA residential improvement program to include facade grant improvements.
I'll let David talk on this.
Okay.
She's been going a while up here. Hey, Patty, it's also 142 pages right there. Good solid information tonight. Recently, there was a resident within the CRA district who was inquiring about the facade grant program. The location in question was a residence. It was a rental residence at that, but a residence. And they were inquiring, wanting to know about using the program to assist in re-roofing the house. I told them that I was not sure, that I've never seen this, that in the commercial facade grant program at the time, that the only information I had seen did not eliminate residents, but it didn't say they could either. So after digging and talking and learning everything and discovering some more files on the computer, it was discovered that there is a residential paint program for the city. It pays up to $500 in assistance for the residents to paint only. The resident who contacted me about this had said, and y'all might be more familiar than I am on this, that approximately 5 years ago, residences were using facade grant money for roofing. I don't recall that. That's right as I started here. So I don't recall that at all. That's out of, but they said that there were several residents who got grant money to do things other than paint for their homes. So here tonight, just to make sure and to get guidance, direction from the board that for the residents of the CRA district, that you want to continue with just the paint only assistance program, or do you want to expand it?
We did do some at one time other than paint, I believe, did we not?
Yeah.
I think we did.
I have recollections of replacing doors on businesses and
And we're
some
talking
homes
residential though.
and some
This is
things.
residential.
Yeah.
Um,
I remember a garage being built and it really upset a lot of people.
In 2018, this fabulous lady here and Jenny were able to find the minutes where the paint program was established. I believe Christina or Amanda was here then. Christina, in 2018, it was changed, for lack of a better term, to a paint-only program for residents.
Right.
But we did used to do other things, but we never did roof it up.
And there's a lot of people who need roofs. They're expensive. We're gonna need one too, but we're not in the CRA district.
Let me ask you a question on this deal here. Let's go back to the last one we just did and now this one. You'd have to have separate budgets then, right? You'd have to have separate line items for each of these. You wouldn't just have a facade type of deal. You'd have to have one, your business improvement
Right,
and residential. And so
Correct.
then it says, and here, grant would only be given as funds are available. So then we would sit here and say, okay, we're gonna authorize $2,000 to go into the, I'm just throwing out a number, to the residential facade. There's $2,000.
Correct.
And it says, so I would keep it. I don't think it's our job to repair homes. But I understand within the CRA to keep a nice visual and so forth. I would to keep it the way it is with the paint. And then maybe we go in the budget, we approve it at the budget time, how much is allocated for each of those projects.
I know up to $500 is the most the residents can get.
Right, I would say 2,000 total.
All right, yeah.
So you could do 4 homes potentially, is
Right.
what I'm saying.
I think
with-
that would be plenty hypothetically.
I'm-
I can't see
right.
more. I believe there are 66 total homes in the CRA
So,
district.
I mean, I would just keep it the way it is.
That consensus.
yes,
consensus?
Yeah, leave it.
yes.
Okay, there we go. We're
Good
gonna
job,
leave it
Dave.
with the painting program, and if we could just get that information available so citizens have easy access to, or if we need to refine that criteria, bring that back to us. So, there's not the ambiguity.
That we'll look at doing.
Okay. Next, discuss consideration and act on the holiday decorations and banners.
Excuse me. My next one is the downtown light post banners.
Yeah, downtown light post banners, that's right.
Before the
Yeah,
Christmas decorations.
I just have number 5, discuss, consider and act on holiday decorations and banners.
Yeah, that's behind that one.
Oh.
Um,
I don't have anything different.
You don't?
No.
I mean, physically in your package.
Oh,
Yes.
Oh.
In the package there is, but it's not on here.
Right, right.
I don't
So
know if
if
can do
you,
it.
oh,
know,
yeah.
I'm just going by my package here,
Yeah,
so.
Jenny, this isn't on the,
Uh,
or was it, was the idea that it was combined?
It's at the back of the packet. You see, it was.
Oh, okay, because the next one says in our packets, it's Christmas decorations and the banners.
Right,
Mhm.
Okay, so let's take the banners and just go on that, because that's what was presented here, is just a single, part A of the agenda.
All right, I had banners, decorations, all as one item. Banners, staff was directed to inquire about removing the banners that were part of that business advertising program, the ones that were vinyl and faded. It was determined to Scott Walker that, yes, the contract had expired for the banners. We can take those down. So those business advertising banners came down. As you can see throughout town, there's not any banners up because there weren't any to put up. Staff went back and found, I think it's in your packet, actually I made copies for you. Let me submit this as evidence here. Approach the bench. This was a last minute add-on, make sure y'all get to see them. I figured it was easier to bring this than for me to tote them all up. There you go, Mr. Folger. These banners were purchased, I believe, in 2018.
Well, I mean, originally, these set of banners was designed by the Main Street program, and 42 of them, 7 each, were purchased in February or delivered in February of 2008. They were up for 10 years and had an anticipated life of 4 to 5. Then in 2018, a proposal was brought forth to replace the banners which had become worn and faded, and funds were allocated, and business in the community paid $2,500 additional cost to have another partial set made, 5 each instead of 7. For that, the city purchased those. They went up, and they were up for a few months and came down when the vinyl program was up. And what happened to them when they came down is unknown.
We have searched every known place the city has to store and keep things. The old ones were located. The seams were torn. They were old. Within that pile of old ones, 2 new purple ones exist, 3 blue ones, 2 green ones, 3 orange ones, 2 yellow, and 2 red exist that are worthy of being put up on the light post right now. At this time, I'm here to ask, these are tremendous banners. They're high quality. They're, as you can see, they're personalized for high, customized, not personalized for High Springs. To add to this, all right, to get another 30, which would be 5 more of each, would be a total of $5,100. We do not necessarily need 5 more of each. I can piecemeal in for a lower cost to get, 6 of each, 5 or 6 of each, and then use remaining funds to look at purchasing holiday banners for the coming holiday season. Staff is requesting $6,000 for this expenditure of banners.
Is this going into one request? We've
Yes,
got 2 different things, but there's one on the deal.
we're on banners right now.
Yeah, this is, I think we want is just banners, and then the decorations don't have banners included.
Okay. Explain to me when you say you're asking for the money.
To purchase some more of the banners that you have pictures of there.
You have the money in your budget.
Yes, sir. It's.
You're
not
just asking to
allocated for.
authorize to spend it because of the dollar amount.
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, because it sounded like when you were requesting money,
Yes,
and I don't have it in my wallet right
I do take checks.
now.
Yours on the phone.
I think they look nice around town.
I do too.
I like to see, and so many cities do have them. I mean, so I think they look nice. And I think there was a time when we had merchants' names on them. which complicates when the merchants no longer are here. So we would not have merchants live.
And these banners, they all, each aspect are part of the vision that it seems High Springs is going
Mhm.
with the ecotourism that we seem to be attracting and the type of downtown area that we're developing into.
Yeah,
I think it's a good idea.
I do too.
Do we have a motion? More discussion?
Do we?
Doing what?
Yes, do we need a motion?
Oh, to spend money, I think you do.
I'm pretty sure we do too.
I just need to go ahead with what y'all do.
What is your, what was the dollar amount?
$6,000.
Oh, here it says 6,500.
I have 6,000 on mine. We'll go with 6,500.
No, we'll go 6. We'll go 6 since you said it only was $5,100.
Well, I also would like to inquire.
So handling,
At holiday banners, filling in,
so now you're adding something.
I mentioned a holiday earlier.
Yes,
Yeah, he did.
he
You
did.
did.
Basically, you'd have $900 to go for some generic holiday banners.
If I do not purchase all 30
Okay.
of the new ones.
Okay.
To just authorize $6,000. I'll make a motion, we authorize $6,000 for banners.
A second.
Any other discussion? Do we need public comment? Is there any public comment?
I don't think so.
Okay, Kevin.
Does anyone on the Zoom that would like to speak, please use the raise your hand function and we'll bring you in. See no hands this time.
Okay, nothing else. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, so now tell us about funding for holiday decorations.
Holiday decorations.
Requesting 7,000 for that.
Yes, by the way, let me tell you, y'all are a much better group than City Commission. This is just great. Holiday decorations, we've all seen them up. Staff was asked to look into the condition of the current holiday decorations and things. So looking at new ones, looking at our existing ones, the current picture is right now, we have approximately 50 of the Christmas wreaths. Some have the candles in them, some don't. Some are functional, some are not. They were all aging and deteriorating more quickly than they should because they're being kept in an unfinished room at the old school, which would be on the west end, that northwest room that is not conditioned. During the summer, it'll easily get over 100 degrees in that room, which just with the dirt, dust, everything else in there, potential rodents, they're just aging, deteriorating more quickly than they should. Looking at new,
Rodents.
well, bugs, just
Oh,
little,
bugs,
that
okay.
kind of stuff.
There's two
Yes.
Because
different.
we go in that building.
Yeah, just bugs again. Looking at existing decorations, I've included many examples in your packet, there at the back. Existing pole decorations average $500 a piece per purchase. Some can be up as high as $1,000. Lesser quality, smaller ones are $200, $250. If we were to replace what we have and purchase, it would be for 40 pieces, approximately $20,000. And then that would require, on top of that, storage in a conditioned facility, which this time we don't have. So it would be either getting a storage unit and paying a monthly fee for it and climate control, or purchasing one of those
Container.
thank you, container and putting an AC type mini split system where you can window unit it to keep the air flowing in there. Then it was discovered, you can lease Christmas decorations.
Like that.
I tell you what, that just makes things great.
Yeah, it looks
Leasing
good.
decorations. found a company out to Berries, which is between Ocala, the Villages area, that they called them, and I didn't realize, but they do the city of Newberry, they do Worthington Springs, they do Bell. I've included a copy of the contract and a couple of the screenshots off their website. The pros to having them do it is, number one, every year, the decorations will be new, they'll be working. They also come and put them up and take them down.
Yes.
All
That
right.
is
Yes.
a large
That's the
issue
best.
with city staff. You know, many times we don't have the staffing at the time needed. This past year, our bucket truck was broke, so the city of Washington had to come put our decorations up for us. And again, we're not storing them either.
Right.
So there's many advantages to it. Also, the other, nice advantages is if we want to do snow bin this year, we can do palm trees next year. You can change out what you want to do on an annual basis, right there. The company, they would just bring a truck up, all the decorations, and they would have them up in a day. They bring a crew, bring their bucket trucks, and they have at it. If we said I wanted them up by the third Friday in November, which gives us time for the tree lighting on the Black Friday, and then we want them down by the second week in January, they will do that for us. Decorations, their average decoration price is approximately $175 per piece on an annual basis. Newberry, I have a copy of their contract for this upcoming year, which is in the packet. The city of Newberry is spending $7,000 on 40 pieces this year to go throughout their Main Street or Newberry Road, downtown area for decorations. I'm here to, I would prefer the lease. I think it would be easier for city staff, for our department, for us just to lease. And let's try this option for 2-3 years, see how it works out with rotating. We also have the ability this year to potentially add decorations to the front of City Hall. Now that the magnolia tree is gone, this wall right there is exposed. We can look at leasing a very large piece to hang them there. Also look at decorating farmers market pavilion. So there are many options. I would like to lease, if the board would like to purchase, then we can do that also. And then we could look at maybe not all 20,000, but spending a few thousand here next year and phasing in as we go. I spoke to the gentleman at the leasing company, decoration. He said, I asked him about trading ours in. He said, yes, you can do that, but we're not gonna give you much. Your best option is to just put them on Craigslist for cities. I'm sure there's a website there, and sell them to another municipality, maybe a smaller one, but and then so we don't have to hold on to those anymore if we choose to do so.
For the leasing.
No, I
It's one of these things that you say, now, why didn't I think of that before? You know what I'm saying?
I would be standing here, I'd be in the Bahamas right now.
I, just from a manpower standpoint,
Right.
That's right.
Yeah, it really is
Yeah.
cost effective.
I mean, factor in
Yes.
the hourly rate, what you call it, don't we have to? Don't we have to?
Hold it. One conversation.
I think I went out. I still have one.
We do, I'm saying, we got. I'm good.
Okay. Do we comment? Everybody?
All right. Ms. Sharon, who is president of the chamber, she was asking, is there a way the city potentially help with Christmas tree decorations? I've not looked at Christmas tree decorations. I do know that decorations in the past for the Christmas tree have been not what they should be from a commercial aspect. They were very small residential lights, not the proper decorations. So we could potentially look at providing some commercial grade lighting for the Christmas tree this year.
Can be part of the lease?
Would you
Yes.
keep that within the $7,000?
8. You're not looking at the right, he's doing that on purpose.
For Christmas decorations, I got 8,000 or 7,000.
On this sheet, it say 8.
Yeah.
But on this one here.
On this, it say 7.
So let's,
Big difference in.
well.
I see.
I think we're looking at a couple different ways of going at this rather than going down, because traditionally I mean, we participate with the chamber and support the Christmas lighting event. It's great, but that has been their project.
Yeah, that's been the
And they
chamber's project.
store those things and they do that kind of thing. So I think we gotta be careful about, well, yeah, I don't know. So I'd like more information about how we do that. But I think leasing's really good. I mean, staff time, boom, huge win. Not having to store them, huge win. I do know that a lot of people have sentimental value attached to seeing the large wreaths go up every year in the town they grew up in. And I've learned that since moving here. So I think we might want to look at, do we totally get rid of the wreaths that we've always done? Or is there a place that we have some of them up? If we can. So again, I let you all look at that and make that decision versus assume that we're just going to get rid of them. And maybe what we do, and if I look at that, they want a 3-year commitment, correct?
Right.
Okay, so if they come back to us with a proposal, if that's what you're gonna do, we'd be looking at a 3-year commitment to whatever the lease is. So I think, and Scott, don't hurt me, but maybe we do authorize a little more than 7,000 for Christmas decorations, some of which might be. I just flipped my page and now I can't find it.
The 7,000 was to purchase new
Oh, okay.
decorations.
So the lease is 8.
Yeah, 7,000 to fund new decorations.
So that we,
And it says 8 on the lease.
we're 8. So I mean, do we suggest instead that we allocate up to 10 that we spread between purchasing and leasing and let city staff come back with a proposal? Because maybe there are some places where they want to buy something, that becomes traditional. I don't know, but if you just want to stick with the lease, go with that. But
You don't just give us the authority to spend up to a certain amount of money.
That's-
And I can sign if we follow the purchasing policy. Because I think that the purchasing policy, I can sign to a certain amount, and so this is not, there's like a window,
I just think they're expensive, because I just looked at the quote that is for one of the other cities, and it was only some much fewer poles and what have you, and that lease was 7,000. And it's like, well, maybe in our core area, we need to up it a little and do a few more poles, or they'll have some fancy, like you said, the pavilion, which isn't, so we could go very quickly from 7,000 to 8,000 to, I don't know, but if you want to stay to 8,
Just
I'm
to be
one
clear,
I know.
Newberry's lease was for 7, I'm requesting 8, but I'm willing to go up to 12.
man.
Just twist your arm.
So do we have a motion?
I move that we approve the lease for $8,000 for. Let me ask one other question before I do that. If we decide we want to go more next year, could we up it at next year, even though we have a
yes,
three-year contract?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I move that we approve the lease for $8,000 for Christmas decorations.
I like that.
All right, do
Do
we
we have a
want to go
second?
with 8 or do you want to increase?
The motion is for 8, so do we
I
have a
know.
second for that?
Second, then we'll,
We don't have a second for that.
for second, just for the second discussion.
Okay.
Okay, discussion. I mean,
I don't have a problem with 8 myself. And then I guess we say 8 now. But next year we always come back
Well,
and say,
next year we could go up. It just means
If
that
that-
they've got no money in the budget for any other decorations other than what they lease.
Okay.
Because
Let's
there's
go with
nothing
it.
currently in the CRA budget for holiday decorations or that kind of stuff.
so some of your old stuff, you couldn't, if you wanted to, could you use some of the old stuff around town?
We could, yes, sir. We could still take some of the nicer pieces, and I think we can get it worked into a contract where they would hang them for us.
Okay.
I like the wreaths. I mean,
You
I like
understood
that.
who said that?
I heard you said that.
Okay. It'll be wreaths on the screen.
1970 stuff that we used forever, that had the different colors, garland and lights on it.
Do you have enough? And I think we're
One counter might be lit.
would you have enough wreaths this year if you did the 8,000, enough wreaths where you could plant them?
Yes.
And then you could look at it in the next year, if there was things you wanted to buy, then we could incorporate that into it.
To next year.
Next year, we could go. So the 8,000 this year, use some of the wreaths, and then that would allow us to at least
The 8,000.
assess it. That'd be more than enough, wouldn't it?
I'll make do.
It'll
Okay.
be barely enough.
Yes.
In his eyes.
These are for just the CRA district, right? It's not the ones going
Correct.
down. Okay.
We can put wreaths outside of the CRA district still.
But that's a city
Not the
thing.
CRA.
Yeah, we can't with CRA funding,
Our wreaths that we have been going outside there.
but they're
That's
city.
somewhere it's purchased from the city.
That's what I'm saying. Those can continue to be outside the CRA district.
Yeah,
I
he
just
just-
want to
yeah.
make sure that the CRA purchase.
Right,
going
yeah.
out of the CRA.
Okay.
Okay, any other discussion?
So, but say if you have more than enough left over, can you donate those to the city and then go into the?
Mm-mm.
Sure.
You just spend more, you spend more in the
He's not gonna
CRA.
have any left over.
Yeah, no, the police decorations will stay within the CRA
Right.
district. The current Christmas wreaths we have now can
Go
be used
outside.
outside the CRA on the poles outside.
Mhm.
And right now, our decorations go from the chevron at the light to the CarQuest, Gary and Donnie's old building. And they go from just this side of Grace Works down to the Duke Energy Yard. That's what the,
No, that's not right.
No, the CRA
No.
stops
no,
before
I
the
said
great house.
decorations.
We're not
Decorations.
Oh, you
talking-
my place
Right.
for CRA district.
No,
No, he's talking the whole-
The decorations when they put them
What
up.
he does for the city.
No, we go further than that.
No, we go to Grace Works.
No,
Mhm.
no. They must have started last year.
You got it going.
No, they used to go all the way down past the funeral home down there.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
Well, Grace Works is past
Oh,
that.
Grace Work. I'm thinking about right here on the corner right now. I'm sorry. y'all.
No,
My mind
Grace
gone.
Works.
My mind gone. It's time to go home.
Yeah, it goes all the way down there to just.
Okay,
about
we
Grace
good now.
Works.
We good.
Yeah.
We good. I'm thinking we saying Grace, but I'm thinking about it on the hill.
No,
Okay. Do we have any public comment?
Chair, if there's anyone on Zoom that would like to participate, please. Seeing no hands.
Okay, any additional comment? Okay, all in favor of spending $8,000 for a lease for CRA holiday decorations?
Let me clear this now, deal. We're gonna allocate 8,000.
Allocate. We may not spend it.
That's all I'm saying.
Yes.
I wonder, we're gonna allocate it.
Allocate, yes. That's what I heard. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, and the last item on the agenda is direction regarding the building department buying the train depot from the CRA.
To help with CRA funding, we're looking at selling the CRA building, the old train depot building, to the building department. Permitting has been very prosperous in the city here, and hopefully it will continue to to do so, where they had funding that it would be a mutual benefit for the CRA and the building department and the city if the CRA and the city / building department was to work out a purchase agreement. I was hoping for, I tried representing y'all for a greater amount, but I was beat down. So you do what you can. The amount would be 200,000. It would be like a 20-year, $20,000 a year over 10 years type option. And looking to see if the CRA board would allow staff to continue on and with this project.
So then what building you work out of? You still gonna work out that building? or-
I still work out of that.
Yeah,
Basically, since the building department, the building fees used to go into the general fund, and then a new state statute happened. And building fees are their own fund now, like a special revenue fund. And so in order to keep our fees where they're at, you can't run but so many years of costs. So, we have money that needs to be spent. And it makes sense because around 3/4 of the building is occupied by building, and they're paying very minimal rent. And CRA needs money because they don't have enough, and building has a lot of money because of all the growth that's occurred the last 2 years. So it would put money where it needs to be and take money out of where it needs to be taken out of. And so we had talked about a couple of different scenarios on the financing. It depends how we wanted to kind of, the agreement to be a little open as far as like when and how we would receive the money, that they would be received in a certain time period. But the amount per year could vary within that time period as long as it's all paid by a certain time period, because as you know, the wastewater treatment plant, we need to get that built to get more growth in. So we might not want to tap the building department too much right now. And then after the wastewater treatment plant is built, then, they can give us more of the money because they're getting more permit fees. That was kind of the thought process behind that, is put money where it needs to go and where it makes sense, because they're the ones really occupying the majority of the building. Not, there's one employee versus how many are over there?
Yeah.
1, 2,
3.
3, 4. I mean, there's some contract, yeah.
Look at
Can't say.
So they're the majority of the building anyway, so why is the CRA, and their rent's very low, and it just doesn't make sense. So.
Commissioners?
And they have
What-
more money to like renovate it and take care of the building than CRA does too.
So what is the rent currently?
What was it, like 2,000?
They pay 7,700, 7,800
Yeah.
a year.
Oh, that is low.
Yes, it is.
So do we have any idea, and how much did we purchase the building for?
It was like 100 and some
About
thousand.
145, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay, so we could probably assume fair market value is higher than 20,000 and,
We were saying, we were just
all right,
saying around
200.
200,000. I can't remember at the time in the office, we kind of looked at what the amount per square foot was on other buildings, and it was just like right around the $200,000 mark after we did that.
Okay, and the CRA paid cash for it? We didn't finance any of it when we bought it?
I believe it was
Yeah.
paid cash. Yes, I'm not aware of any mortgage.
Yeah,
Jenny would, it was cash.
Okay,
I'm willing to hold a note at a reasonable interest rate though.
okay, so if we went ahead with what we assume is close to a fair market value or what have you, that means they're basically getting interest-free and paying $16.66 a month if it were $20,000. Which is good rent for municipal
Mr.
area.
Chairman, may I interject just a minute?
Sure.
I talked to Mr. Walker about that with regard to that particular issue. And it was his opinion, as is my position, that you may need to have the property appraised
Yeah.
between the two parties rather than trying to establish a fair market value.
Okay,
Because have it appraised to see what that value is.
thank you, because that's my question. And then the next part, I guess, as you structure some kind of a deal here, because I know the county's been looking for more participation from the city in supporting the CRA activities. So if the CRA offices are going to remain in there, if we could establish what that fair market rent value is, and then with the agreement that that would be deferred to show the city's support of the CRA, that might help with some of the number crunching.
That was the discussion, that the CRA was not going to pay rent.
Right, that they're not, but there's a
Yeah.
value assigned to that, that the city
Exactly,
basically is saying
Yeah,
they're
so-
gonna donate to the
You
CRA
would show it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we'll
you would
show it.
show
You
it.
would be able to show that.
Yeah,
as that offset. Okay.
yeah, so because building funds can only be used for certain things, you know, we gotta kind of look into that a little bit to make sure we do everything correctly. But since they haven't paid off the building for a few years, then it's technically, we just need to look at how to work that. But the idea was that they would not pay rent
Okay.
until it's paid off.
So what do you need?
Yeah, what do you need at this
But we're
point?
just, if you're in
Just-
favor of that, then we'll get an agreement. We'll get the appraisal done. We'll get in it, you know, follow what the city attorney's office says, and we'll get an agreement on a.
Yeah, I just want to make sure the county doesn't come back to us, that we
Yeah.
do our due diligence and that we're not doing a sweetheart deal even
Always-
between the
I'm
CRA
always
funds.
concerned with the county.
Yeah,
I also do know that when CRA sunsets, CRA assets are evenly divided between the city and county. So then this would eliminate one, put it in cash that we turn into projects.
yeah, and that's the nicer thing, because that's revenue that we can then use.
And I think if we had some of capital, when they're big pieces of capital projects, if we had actual capital projects in mind that would improve the district, I think that would probably win them over.
So there's consensus for that? Bring us back the proposal. Okay.
What a salesman.
All right, next chair report. I don't have anything specifically. I look forward to, the update from GAI, which you're gonna give us some little thing. And I know there's a lot happening, and I'll be real interested in seeing the budget for the CRA coming forward and what we think we can do this next year with the reserves and money that's coming in. Anything else? Next, the GIA update and the downtown lighting.
All right, the strategic plan has been completed. Staff currently has a copy of it. We're reviewing it right now to make sure, as many i's are dotted, t's are crossed for things that Ashley and I see and Bruce. August 5th, I'd like to have the next CRA board meeting, and again, this will be a big one. This is where I like GI is coming to present the strategic plan. At this time, you'll be able to answer or ask as many questions as you want. You'll have the opportunity to either adopt the strategic plan at this meeting or request changes. It's important, to do it here on August 5th, because on September 28th, we're presenting this plan to the county commission. We've already got the date set, and I'd like to have this plan, the adopted plan, turned into them into August, first week of September, to give them a chance to review it before we present it. So I think if we, GAI staff, present it to the board here on August 5th, that will give any potential changes 2 to 3 weeks to be made, to come back for a second opportunity for adoption. Once it's adopted, then we can move on to the county commission. And then once we've done that, we have completed what the commission has asked of us for the next 11 years. Downtown lighting project. That project is out for bid right now at this time. If you're interested, please go to the city's website. It's there. July 15th is when the bids are due. That is next Thursday. A week from Monday, Jenny, we'll be opening bids. I'm sure we'll do it all together. will staff will review all bids and rank them in order of like to based on the bid and go to the negotiating process. Again, the August 5th meeting, we'll be reporting back on that project. The bids, I think from the 19th to August 5th, we'll have time to hopefully enter agreement with one. A preliminary agreement, I should say, to make sure that they're going to be able to do everything we asked and then come back to the board on that. And that's about it. So just August 5th, it is the first Thursday. And I imagine we'll start no earlier than 6 to make sure Killer has a chance to get here.
They're gonna be able, in all seriousness, are they gonna be able to do their presentation in
Yes.
half an hour?
No,
No, that's the first Thursday.
Oh,
it's the
first
first
Thursday.
Thursday. Yeah, that's what I'm doing August 5th.
Okay.
Yep, is to make sure that they have enough time to go through everything. It is having read over it a couple times, it is a very in-depth, very, very well-written plan. And I think we're capable of doing quite a few projects in there. You know, they go from very minor to very major things. I think it just helps create a vision for not only downtown, but all of High Springs as it starts to trickle outside of the CRA. That's it. Do you have anything, Ashley?
No, I just look forward to the bids coming in.
Regarding the GIA presentation, we have an opportunity to look after staff has done this review. Will we get it before the packet, right before the meeting? Can we have it a minimum of 2 weeks in advance? Because so that we have a chance to really look at that. And I mean, does anybody else want to? I would like it in advance at least. I don't know about anybody else, but
It would be nice.
And we can send it now, as long as you just know that staff hasn't if you want to look at it now and give us your changes, okay, we can send it out, but just know that everything in there is the stuff that staff has already said, yeah, we're all in favor with, because we're still making like we're not giving this to you saying it's the final document, because we're still having it under review. So as long as you keep that perspective, we'll go ahead and send it out. And
I mean, I know I wouldn't mind looking at that.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, if you could send us what you've got now, that'd be great.
yeah, well, David, can you just work to them when you get back?
I will. We'll grade the papers together.
Okay.
But don't just say you see something in there and it's like something you don't like, don't think that.
I'm sending an email at 11:30 at night and I want an answer right away.
Oh, you know you will.
No, it isn't. So, okay, anything else from anyone this year?
I know we're gonna talk about the pre-step. I just want to go back. There's some kind of way we can approach this from historical. I want to preserve that building. Just so important for us. When I say us, people living in High Spring, to preserve that building as much as possible. We can look at it from a museum standpoint, anything, try to preserve that building because it's just been a part of High Springs for so many years. My heart is there. My heart is there. And give me a second. And we have to reach out to different organizations in town, the High Springs Historical Society, the Douglas Historical Society, something that we can do to preserve that building and the rich history that it has there. As a kid, I can remember Mr. Cooper walking up the step to make us stop making noise.
Yeah.
And by the time we get up to the steps, we're quiet and we hear him walking back down, we start making noise again. And when I say the first movie, yes. And when I was saying the first movie, I remember it was in 1976 because that was the second date me and my girlfriend, my sweetheart went on.
Okay.
And she allowed me to leave, take out the house. Miss Bell. So that's so significant to me that I never will forget that car wash in 1976. I was allowed to take my sweetheart out of the house. I had to sit on the sofa with Mama sitting over there and everybody else. I was allowed to take her to the movie. So it's just, there's so much rich, history there. I'm saying we need to do something, come with a plan sometime to preserve that place for what it is and what happened. For the city of High Springs for many years, and it's known over the state of Florida. I don't know national level, I don't know, but I'm quite sure on the state level, it's known as one of the oldest theaters in High Springs. And I just think that, I can imagine in my mind, somebody going in and gutting it and it bothers me. So we can, some kind of way.
That would be
as
good
a
if we could
city,
do
We
that.
can approach that building as a
It
historical
deserves to be
site.
saved.
Growing up here as y'all did, small town,
Mhm.
living here, working here, in relationships, personal, professional, often intertwined. And the current owners of the Priest and we got a great relationship. Nobody knew which direction this would go when we came together to go through this process. But we all decided that regardless of what happens, the ultimate goal, no matter who does it, is the preservation of the Priest and the lights on Friday and Saturday nights. So, whether we provide assistance now in grant opportunities, ad valorem tax assistance, whatever it might be, whatever we can now do for the CRA and city to help preserve and maintain that building, then we're all in agreement for that.
Ma'am?
She wants.
Did you say that they would take bids? Take a bid on the property?
We don't own it, so it
No.
would be like whatever the owner wants to do.
Take bids, if they
Well,
want for purchase,
Not a bid, but make an offer, to make an offer for the property.
they would potentially list offers, I think.
Okay,
I don't
so-
want to speak for the owners.
How about we can continue this, at the
Yeah.
conclusion of the meeting, but if we've got no more business here, or go ahead, Linda.
I do want to make a comment, and I know it sounds hard-hearted, but you said that we were all in agreement to find some way to preserve it, but again, we're talking money. And I mean, I don't know what it would take to preserve it, just to leave it sitting there. I'm not sure exactly what you're
No,
talking about
that ain't
preserving.
that's what I'm not talking about. I ain't talking about the city behind. I'm not talking about that. We can partner with other organizations or the state or somebody. It's got to be something out
Something
there
like that.
to help to preserve that theater for what it is.
But, well, one, unless we want to formally reopen the discussion on the Priest, there was consensus that we wouldn't be moving
No, we're
forward.
not
Right.
moving on.
We're not.
No, I'm just-
So, as far as the vibe going on in the community, I hope they can work something out with the current owners. But as the CRA is concerned,
Well, I thought you,
we've-
David, and Miss, after me, know what.
Okay. I just want,
no,
No, we've got-
Assistance, help, whatever we can do to help.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I
It's
get
a
what you're
positive blessing.
saying. So, okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, so move.